Hello and welcome to the Ubuntu Q&A. This is the 125th Q&A that we had. So with me today, I have Appley.
Hi.
And myself. So let's just get straight into the news, I guess. Do you want to start with the first news?
Oh, yeah, that's a great news, and I'm really happy to share it with you. It has been posted on the forum, but our friends at VoLTE are a big supporter of the foundation and are offering a chance to win a VoLTE phone 22. You can learn more about this following the forum post. I don't know if you can post the link, maybe.
Yeah, I posted in the chat, and I will also have the comments below.
Okay, great. So yeah, head there, and I hope you will win this prize. It will be it's a great news because now the Vodafone ships with UB ports installed. So that's great. Oh man, I did it. I said UB ports instead of Ubuntu Touch. Sorry.
Everyone done that mistake.
Yeah, and I corrected many of them.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of VoLTE, we have even more great news about them. They are now donating 10 euros to the foundation for every device sold with Ubuntu Touch. So that's also amazing news from VoLTE there. One thing I also want to have in the news here is that we had something called newcomers introductory meeting, which we had on Thursday, which was basically we went into a voice chat and talked together about how to get into Ubuntu Touch development and how to get into contributing to Ubuntu Touch in general. Doesn't need to be in coding, but that was a really good spirit. There was I think at one point we had 20 people inside of a voice chat room. It was really good to see a lot of people. We got a lot of input on how to do better and how to make things like documentation and everything. So that was a really cool meeting. And if someone else is interested in joining that, there will be a new one in about a month or so. And if you want to join that, it will be posted on both the forum and on the news channel on Telegram. So if you want to join it next time, feel free to jump in next time.
Yeah, that's a good thing because many people don't know really how to help. Often we hear that I'm not a developer, so I can't help. That's not true because there is a lot of things like testing on different platforms and
Yeah, writing documentation, translation. Oh,
your cat is.
Yeah, she likes laying there, so you will probably see her.
Yeah, great.
But yeah, as you said, there's many things you can contribute with, from everything from documentations to write up to blog posting to even joining this show. There's so much to do. I will put out the light in the background. Do you want to take some of the development news that I've written down?
Yeah, sure. So Owen and Luigi, I guess they are from Pine 64 or not? I'm not sure. Sorry.
No, they're from the community.
Okay, so they merge images for NGPS into the Pine 64 devices. I guess it's Python and the tablet.
Yes, it's
for both.
It's the Pine Tab 2 and Pine Phone 2 actually.
Great. Yeah, that's good news.
I think the light is a little bit better now.
And Ratchanan fixed some memory issues with the Hybris Media Codec video decoder. So what does it mean? Because
So
hybrid media codec is something a bit different, and the video decoder, so it's for playback of the videos, or is it from the camera hardware?
it's actually for both, but mostly the issue where in the browser when you were watching a video, it suddenly crashes at some point, um, which was due to some memory issues, and that's now fixed. Ratchan used a long time to figure out one to dig deep into to the depths of libhybris.
Yeah.
So that one was a huge one. But at the same time, we also got Alfred refactoring of the OMX enablement, which is the browser media is for decoding and encoding, decoding only actually in the browser. So that has refactored that and made it a lot smoother experience. So the next OTA should have a better browser experience both for camera and for video playback and all the goodness from the browser, so we can actually capitalize on the hardware that we have in the
Okay,
device.
so good news on the video front for
Yeah.
those who watch videos or take videos with their phone and then play it back. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, they all know hardware accelerated, which is gonna make a huge difference. And you can now watch 4K videos, and it just works fine.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
I still don't understand 4K videos on the phone, but that's great to have it.
Yeah. So I also want to mention some other news on more of the roadmap side. We have now finalized what we call the high level roadmap, which is a roadmap for the next 4 months of what we want to do forward. And some of the things that we want to really focus on and really nail down is user experience issues. We really want to start nailing those down and getting rid of a lot of these annoying issues that keeps Ubuntu Touch from being a real alternative to Android and iOS. With these issues, I mean, like GPS, for example, is an issue that has been there for a long time. But also
You
Bluetooth
mentioned,
audio.
yeah. So when you say GPS was an issue, you mean a GPS?
A GPS, yeah.
Yeah.
A GPS, it takes way too long to actually get the GPS fixed now, because of how cellular now how satellite works. So that's why there's something called HGPS, and HGPS is using cellular towers, the position of the cellular towers, and then measures the signal that it gets from the cellular towers, and it triangulates your position based on cellular towers, which is quite amazing. Allow how
Yeah.
that works. But that's something we really want to focus on. And also Bluetooth audio, as I said, well, in kind of Bluetooth in general, but Bluetooth audio and specifically, for example, using taking a call in your car, for example, with had hands free, and having headphones, and you can make calls and take calls and route it properly. We also have some stretch goals in there. It's like 5G support that we want to try to get. But those are again stretch goals if we have enough time to do it. So that's mostly what I've been working on, and it's gonna continue working on this.
Yeah, so deep dives on those topics that many people ask questions about, and
Yeah.
many people want to know when it will be available. Hopefully soon, but
Yeah.
we know it's a hardware road until you get there. So good luck. And
Yeah.
I think it's time to thank our sponsors.
Yes.
I'd like to mention Smooth, Voya, and Pine64. Also, our infrastructure sponsors like DigitalOcean, Cloudrun, Netify, and Gandhi.net. And also, we usually butcher the names of our patrons. Heather Ellsworth, Christian Jive, Rondarius, Spendier Oz, PK, Kenneth Drew, Daniel Franchak, Robin Hood, A. Thiel, Taffitson, Garner and Associate Consulting Incorporated, Tixia, JT, and Will Atwood. If you want to help us continue what we do, you can go back to https://ubports.com/donate. And feel free to also use IBAN, the European standard for donating directly.
If you donate using that, you can also get a
tax reduction. Yeah.
Reduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
We really appreciate all your support. It's amazing to see this community grow, and we need your help to grow even further.
Yeah, thank you all, because that's what makes it possible today to have this logo on our phones. I don't know if you that's the stuff we want, and hopefully on a more recent and always up-to-date hardware. So that would be a great goal to go to porting even more efficiently. So that's the dream.
That is the dream. We're gonna make it.
Yeah, hopefully. And we have amazing people working towards this goal. So I'm hopeful on the future.
Me too. We really need an alternative, like real bad at this point.
Yeah.
Gonna go straight to the questions then.
Maybe I wanted to ask, but maybe you're not ready for this. I don't know. That's something. That's some experiment I wanted to propose to dive deep into some technical topics. And for starter, I don't know if you are up for this or if you have the answer right in your head. I think yes, because you're smart. My idea was to try to help people understand how you work and how it happens, how you do the magic behind the curtain. So for this first one, I wanted to know how GitLab and GitLab, the Git repository used by UBports, are organized. Because we know that some years ago it was on GitHub that we had to move to GitLab, but some stuff is still on GitHub. Is it all obsolete, or do we have something still useful there? And what are the dependency? For example, Helium. We know that many ports now are based on Helium. So how does it work on the repository side? How do you manage all those repository and the directories under them?
Right. So if I will start with the first one, if what we use and how we use them. First of all, GitHub we still use a little bit. There is some repositories there. Well, actually, first I can say what the repository is. A repository is basically a project inside of a team that we have, that you put all your code, but you also can attach bug reports and what we call pull request, which is someone wanting to add code to the repository. So that's what a repository is. It's basically a bucket of code, and people can add to that bucket. But yeah, we still use GitHub. We have GitHub for some infrastructure things, since they are linked up with with the actual infrastructure server. So that hasn't been moved over yet. The plan is to move it eventually. It just hasn't been the highest priority, since that's not a code that we changed that much. It's a infrastructure to building all these components. We also have the installer over at GitHub, because we use Snap, and Snap is only building code from GitHub currently. So that's why we need to stay on GitHub for those. Well, we can build them manually, but it's nice to have the automatic building from Snap. So that's why we have that on GitHub still. And as you said, Halium is still on GitHub. That's a project where multiple people has worked together. So that hasn't been talked about, moving that over to GitHub. Might be something we do in the future, but again, there's multiple people working on this, not only UBports, but we have other working on it. It's mostly UBports at this point, since KDE dropped support for Halium a while back. So we still have that over at GitHub. libHiris is the same thing. libHiris is an effort with a lot of people, from Sailfish and everyone. That is also on GitHub still. So there is things still on GitHub, but 99% of the repositories we have moved over to GitLab. On GitLab, what we really like about GitLab is that you can organize it to subgroups. Like you have a group and you can have subgroups, and you can have issues across the whole team. So you can have an issue, for example, TPS can be one issue, but it doesn't necessarily need to be tied into one specific repository. So that's why we also wanted to move to GitLab, because it has a lot more of these organizations, tools, and the tools are helping us better work. So that's one of the reasons why I moved to GitLab, and also because GitLab is open source while GitHub is not. As you may know, GitHub got bought by Microsoft a while back. So that's also some of the motivations why we had moved to GitLab.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot of information. I'm not sure if it made sense.
That makes sense, and that was also related to the newcomers thing, because when you do some testing, you will want to know where to put the issue. Is it on GitHub, GitLab? Which sub repository is it? If it's for maybe a core app, you will have something different. And if it's for an app, then you will go to the app developer. So you will have the link on the open store.
Also, the wonderful thing about GitLab is that if you made an issue against, let's say, Lumiri, and the issue is not in Lumiri, you can just move it around. So there's no problem in reporting it in the wrong place, because we can just move them around and triage them at what the components that the issue is. So that's a wonderful thing with GitLab. That's something you couldn't do with GitHub. So now it's not that big of a deal. If the issue comes in the wrong place, we can just move it.
And that's always also helpful because some issue can be with something, and then you will encounter that it affects another component and pass it on. So maybe it will involve many people in the chain to fix it. So that's really useful. I think we can jump to the questions. Do you want to take the first one, maybe?
Yeah. How the various repositories can be used to create an image for the Pixel 3a, for example. So this is what makes us quite unique in one way, is that we use something called Halium, which is small containerized, just the bare minimal components to use the Android drivers. So what we had to do then is that we have to build this inside what we call an Android open source tree, or Android open source project tree. So we have to build those in separate from the rest of the system. So there's two things that need to be done. First, you need to make the kernel, build the kernel for it. You don't need to build the kernel if it already have support for the kernel. You can use the existing kernel, but if you want to build the kernel, you can build that. Next, you need to build the Halium side, or the Halium tree. So then you need to clone that repository. That's on a whole own workflow that we use, because we are relying on some Android components there and all that, which makes that process harder than we want it to be. But it's documented on the forum, on the documentation, especially on the Halium documentation. We would like this documentation to be a lot better than what it is. So that's a priority point that we really want to nail down. But we have people from if you join the porting group, there is always someone there that can help you out. But to explain it in simple terms is that we have specific repositories for example, the Pixel 2a, and then we have the kernel, so that's 2 repositories. We then have a full list of components that we need to use, and we use a tool called repo, and this tool will pull everything from that list into a folder, and then you can make or build the device from there. So the workflow, once you get into it, is it's pretty good. It's nice. You can build it pretty quickly. The only thing that takes time is to download everything. But other than that, building it should be fairly quick if you have a beefy computer. So that's one side of it. But then we have the Ubuntu Touch side of things, which is a lot easier. That's more traditional as you use on your desktop. Each component you can build separately and install it separately. You don't need to build it as a big chunk as you need to do with Halium. So on the Ubuntu Touch side of things, if you want to pour over, for example, GPS, and there's a problem in GPS, you can take Lumiri location service, you can build just that component, and you can install it, and then you can make a pull request for it. So that's how we use those various components, is that those are more independent and you can use them independent. You can install them independent. So there's no like big thing you need to download. You take what you want to build, you build it. Again, we need better documentation here. It comes back with the documentation. So this is something we really want to do. There is some documentations there, but you also need to build it for ARM, which is something we call cross-compiling. That's also a step that we need to really nail down on the documentation side of things. So there is missing documentations, and that's what we are working with the newcomers group to try to catch these pain points. And documentation definitely is a pain point.
The documentation in general is quite nice. Some of it maybe sometimes is a bit updated, but I think, we need some newcomers to point us to the things that is missing, because that's very difficult to know when you know the stuff, because that's something you do maybe not every day, but often. So that's really interesting. And also, what I noticed, and that's why I asked about GitHub and GitLab repository, is that you don't have the many links to the project. So and something that is sometimes very hard is to get the sources for your specific device. That's the first step for porting to a new device, is to get those sources and sort them out, I think.
Yeah. Luckily, we have the Lineage OS project, which often has all those sources pretty. If the device has been ported to Lineage OS, then we have those. We can pull those, which makes our work a lot easier. Okay, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think we can move to the question from the forum. RE88, or sorry, do you?
There wasn't the last one here is this. Okay, yeah, no, just let's just continue.
Okay. So the first set of questions are from RE88, and they ask several questions about Snap. So in the last Q&A, Alfred said that at the moment Snaps can't replace Libertine because there are things in Libertine that you need to stay feature complete. And they wanted to know what are those feature or things. Do you have the answer, or sadly, is it something Alfred only knows?
Yeah, I think this is a question more directed for Alfred. There is things that I can try to explain, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. Alfred is the one that's sitting with this information, since he's the one that works on Snaps. But I can imagine that Libertine has, first of all, a lot broader support for apps, since it has the whole app repositories and how it directly more interface with X11, because it can run on X11, and it also can utilize more of the hardware. But there is, but I think also what Alfred meant is that Snap is also not there yet. So it's missing, for example, a user interface to install apps, and you have to use the terminal currently. But again, I think this is a question for Alfred. Sadly, he's not here today, so I think we need to save this one for him.
Yeah, sorry, Ari. You asked a specific question related to Snap, so maybe we can answer. They ask also about the feature Click has that makes them not replaceable by Snaps. I think that's something maybe too technical for us who haven't worked on Snaps. But the main
I know
thing
one thing at least.
Yeah, the main thing I can say is that moving from Click or any type of package to another one is a huge. It takes some work, so it's not something that we can do easily. So first of all, is the main feature Click has is it's Click, so it's already implemented. We inherited it from the canonical days, and it works for us. And so that's something. If it's not being replaceable, that's another topic, I think.
And one thing that comes to my mind is that Snap also don't have the hardware, like specific hardware access that we use on Ubuntu Touch. For example, Trust Store, where you can use camera, use GPS, and these more deeper hardware, because Snap is made for desktop, and these, what they call plugs or permissions, are not tailored for Ubuntu Touch, so it doesn't use the same paths or the same drivers even. So that's one thing that I can especially see in my mind that makes click not like snap not replace click not replaceable yet. These are all features that probably can be fixed. But also one thing with click is that it has which uh, which also is the way of installing, for example, as I said before, click, we already have a store, we have everything ready, we have all things packaged, and as Apple said, is like we already have it. So it more of making snaps up up to speed to be able to replace it. But I'm not sure if click ever, no, snaps ever will replace click, because we click is so deeply integrated that we might keep click around and have both as an option for a long time.
All right. So the next one still about Snap. So Snapd and Snaps already work on read-only system called Ubuntu Core. Why in UT Snapd Snaps need a writable system? Will this be solved? Actually, I think maybe it referred to something Alfred said last time.
Yeah, the thing is that Ubuntu Core is not fully read-only too. It is kind of like Ubuntu Touch, where you have some writable path in the system that you define. So it's more of a Snapd still needs a writable system, but you can define the paths, like for example, etc/config something to be writable, even though it's not. But what we do is that we have something called overlay, so it doesn't technically write over the system; it just overlays on top of the system. So that's pretty much the same as a Snap Core, if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, go on.
I can take the next one. How much work is needed to have Lumiri packaged as Snap and working on all Snap OS? Right. So this one is a bit complex in a lot of ways. Is how Snap is integrated. But luckily, there was an old Snap of Unity 8 way back in the day. So maybe there is some code we can reuse there and maybe have it there. But I'm not sure how integrated that will be in the system. I know that Canonical is replacing GNOME with that all Snap system, not replacing, but having a different option that you can use alt Snap GNOME version. Maybe we can also piggyback on top of that and maybe use the same plugs or something. But these are all ifs. Maybe there's probably some code we need to change and some permissions. The issue is really how the Snap should how much access to the system, because a desktop environment leaves a lot of access to the system to be able to function, and also you have to all the apps on top of it needs to also know where to send their buffers and their informations. So the desktop environment also needs writable to the to to the standard locations of sockets and whatnot. But I also think that Canonical will probably have this is a classic confinement, which is a more less restricted way of publishing snaps. But in that regard, you also need to ask for permissions to be able to post this, because these are then considered unsecure snaps. So these are all ifs. It might happen at some day, but I think it's for us it's probably better to working on getting it fully working on Debian, and then well, that will mean that it also syncs to Ubuntu, and also get it fully working Ubuntu before we start looking into this snaps option, because that opens up a whole can of, of bugs basically. So that's the complicated things, is that we don't want to overly complicate our work before we have a desktop that actually works on a normal system first.
Yeah, I feel you. I will take the next one. GT asks some questions. The first one is, I would be interested to know your advice on how and when you transition to Focal for ordinary users. For example, I use a VoLTE 22 as a daily driver and would like to know when it is safe to update to Focal. My take is you can do it right now. You just change the and go to Focal, try it out, and if you have some roadblocks, something that you can't live without, and that is not working yet, then go back to Xenoid. So, but I don't see a major risks. But yeah, that's my take. Basically, you may not feel the same about it. So just, yeah, when you feel you're ready, try it. Just change it for maybe a weekend or something where it's not critical. You don't have some professional phone calls or something you don't want to miss. Make some tests. Ask some friend to call you and see if you get the call. Try to send some text messages, some things, and if it works for you, then stay with it, and you will have some to-date stuff going on. And yeah, basically that will be my advice. Don't be afraid. But your mileage may differ. You may have some different type of use, and if you have some critical features, then just check the forum, ask the question about the status for some specific development on some topic that is not working because there are some bug issued, and that's it. That will be my answer on that.
Yeah, I would say pretty much the same. The only thing I want to add is that it might be good to just check open-store.io if you have all the apps already ported to Focal before you move over. Then you will. That's the only thing But even with VoLTE 22, a lot of bug fixes have gone into that device since Xenials. I think even you will have a better experience on Focal, in my opinion, since there has been a lot of fixes there. But also, what I also can say is that after OTA 4, in a little while after that has been released, the Focal OTA 4, OTA 3, OTA 3, the next one, then we will start sending up updates to Xenial to migrate over to Focal. So that will be then you don't need to switch anything. So you can also wait for that. When that comes, we are 100% sure that everything should work as it should. But now we are pretty much sure. And even for VoLTE 22, as I said, it probably will be a better experience since there has been a lot of progress in there.
That's also related to a question from Domu Pipekiem that asked if it's still planned that OTA 3 will be considered the first truly stable Focal version.
Yes.
So yeah,
that it will be the fully truly stable one. All of them has been stable, but that one is the one that we are sure are up on par with all the things from Xenial, and it's at this point it's even better than Xenial in my not biased opinion at all.
Yeah, no one is not biased.
No one.
So GT also asks and says, "Thank you for giving some insight into VoLTE progress in the last Q&A, and they will be interested to know whether Sysmocom and Voya are still working on it, or whether VoLTE support solely relies on the UBports core team."
Right now, it solely relies on the UbiPorts core team. Well, it solely relies on me at this point. But I already got some help from the community, and I really hope we can speed that up with some community help. The thing with VoLTE is that it's so complex that it makes it so hard for anyone else that doesn't know the system very deeply. It's not it. The thing with VoLTE is that it's all the code that's written for it. Like before, we could use the code from Android, but now that's even closed source. And the worst part of it is that a lot of it is in Java, so we can't use it at all. So that makes that really complex, and we need to really reverse engineering, trying to understand how it works. And the thing with that is that it can take weeks without you even getting any results, because you have to it's kind of like you just poke at it and see if it works or not. So that's the complicated things about it.
So basically, you're telling that you have to read Java code and translate it and try to implement it for Ubuntu Touch?
Well,
C++ or...
no, because the Java code is only the API interface on the Android side. It's not really the logic itself of what it does. That all that's happening on the vendor side, which can be written in anything that the vendor chooses, and that code we can't write because it's not open read because it's not open source. So that doesn't help us.
Yeah, so that's really hacking in the original sense of the term.
It is. VoLTE is one of the biggest mess I have seen. It's supposed to be new and better, but it's just worse.
Yeah, I heard it was some SIP containerized or something like that. Does SIP helps, or it's just something completely obfuscated?
So it is an SIP server. When you get to that point, and when you actually want to make the call, then it's fine. Then you have an SSC server, but the problem with it is all the things that you need to do before you get an address for the SSP server.
Yeah.
So you have to go back and forth with the cell towers to find out if, first of all, if the device is supported. What you also get something called a private line, which is kind of an opening into the bandwidth, so you get priority on the cellular network, so you don't get dropped a lot. So it is a lot of back and forth, but that's not the problem. Is that nothing of this is standardized, and everything is made by the vendor and not Android. So there's no like Android code there anymore. Like there's no like central hub. Like for example, before we could just ask something called RealD, which was the radio daemon on Android. And you can just ask that back and forth if you want the information. But there's nothing like that now. Now we need to implement it ourselves and talk with the vendor code back and forth. But we need to figure out how to talk with the vendor code. So that's
always a blog thing, and trying to understand what it's done, and the diversity of code existing there. Each vendor having their own secret sauce. All right. Next question is from Messaisto. Is pointing to a thread from the forum where some people ask to want to help with VoLTE, or suggest some kind of bounty to. Would that be helpful in your effort, or?
I mean, all help will help. So if you want to help out with VoLTE, please just ping me on Telegram, or even ping me on the forum, and I can try to get you up to speed with that. I have to say that I have a lot of work these days, so I might be a little bit slow to respond sometimes. But at least just ping me, and I can get back to you, and I can get you up to speed on how to get into the development and whatnot. Since there's no real information out there, all the information would be nice to, if we can just have a pad and we can just dump everything we have in the pad. I will actually do that with my information. That's a good idea, to just dump it in a pad and we can share the information, because there's no like documentations, there's no API documentation, there's nothing. Like you have the specification, but that doesn't help us because we need to use the APIs in the system, and all that is made by the vendors and closed stores, and yeah.
Yeah.
And everything goes through Binder too, so it's not like normal API calls. You can just find the, like, using using object dump to find the function calls in the binary. Everything goes through Binder, and you need to sniff this binder, and then you need to have a running system, which means you have to have Android on one device, and you have to have another device, and you have to compare them. Yeah, it's a real mess,
messy,
but it's
yeah. So if I understand, the only help that can be really helpful is to have someone with some experience with VoLTE in another project, or any kind of information regarding a specific vendor, for example, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That will be really nice, and also just having people to poke around. If you have like 5 people poking at the same thing, we get the result faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next question is about development, app development. Is from Atessa, and they say that I have almost finished my first UT app. However, the app must run unconfined and with elevated privileges. To do this, I looked at solutions used in other apps, and basically they pass the password and call sudo in a shell session, which works, but feels wacky. Oh, I feel you. And is there, and I don't know how about, or will be an official way of running apps that need elevated privileges, something along the likes of GKSU?
So right now there is no tool to do that, but that's mostly because apps were never designed to be elevated privileges in Ubuntu Touch. This is something that came later on, when people see that there wasn't was a need for it. So that's something that we need to make, to have something like that, and it probably will be a more secure way to do it that way. Of course, it's never secure to give away your root password, but more secure, maybe not. But
yeah, something tricky.
Yeah. That's really something that needs to be made. It's not something we have already. So
yeah,
there's no plan for it, but
yeah, and to make something work, it will be it requires a system component that will take the password. It will be a generic system component that will prompt for the password, verify it, and then issue a specific key to authorize the app that triggered the service. So yeah, that's something that need thinking, that needs some very good integration into the system. So it's not something that can be done easily. And as you said, there are no plans for the moment. But yeah, if someone wants to pitch in and try to do something, maybe they can, just do a merge push request, and we will review it and see if we can integrate it in the system, because that's something that would be very nice. Something like a topic that's come back often on the forum is about some background service for the GPS, and I think that's the same high level of integration within the system to get there.
Yeah. I think the last question we already have answered.
Yeah, it was answered at the same time of the Vola 22 about the daily driver. Because
So since we have 9 minutes left about that, I will pick some quick ones out of the comments here. One from Vegard, I would say Vegard, but it's VE64RD. They say, will there be support for the Fairphone 5? Actually, I will try to port it at least, because I'm getting one in the mail. It's probably here next week. So most likely there will be a port for it. So that I will at least try all. Like, I can never promise it. It's like you never know with ports how they goes, but I'm 99% sure it will work. I know that the Fairphone 5 uses an older binary blobs tree, so we can even reuse a lot of the things we already have. So I don't think it will be just a new one that we need to do. So I think that should be fine. I will see if I can find other questions here.
Yeah, I'm looking too also.
I love seeing that we have some spam in here. That's fine.
Yeah, I spotted this one too. That's nice.
It's really nice.
Very classy. Yeah.
What's your? Oh yeah, you first.
Yeah, Arctic Canyon asked, would be happy to help, but I know nothing about what would be involved for this. And yeah, that's why you can go to the website, ubpost.com. In the community section, you will find different ways to help. And the first one is to donate. It's easy, no brainer. It's simple. And but yeah, you will find many other ways, like helping with documentation or translation or stuff like that. There are many topics that we can see. And also, we have some volunteers working on some forums, like at FOSDEM, where we have volunteers helping us spread the love.
Okay, I will take another question here. I see someone is begging for this one. What's your thought on OCaml? I have never used OCaml. It's not been something that I ever.
I did, and that's no fun.
It's no fun. Okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's a functional language, and so it was fine. But yeah, that's something not traditional, I will say, for just production.
So why use C++ instead of real language as OCaml? Are you scared of functional paragrams? Yeah, probably. I probably am.
Probably yes.
Probably yes. But the thing is,
I
The
saw
reason
it
why I use
on
C++.
academic researches. So yeah, not something that you want in a production environment. And yeah, C++ is easily accessible for many people, even if many people will argue that Java is even easier. But yeah, no, if you know how to code, then C++ is as easier as Java for me.
If I'm not mistaken, also OCaml is not. Is that a compiled language, or because in C++ we need the performance, and also the main reason why we use C++ is really because we use Qt, and Qt uses C++ all over the place, and also I'm one of the weird ones that enjoy writing C++. It's quite fun. I want to write Python but have the performance of well-written assembly. Then we will have a real language. Yeah, I think I saw a new language that kind of looks like well, it is using a dialect of Python, but it was called. It had a fire emoji as its like. It actually has a fire emoji. Also, you can use the fire emoji as the dot on the file name. I don't remember what it was called, but it is apparently gonna have a yeah, it's Mojo. It's Mojo. Mojo is called. That is supposed to have really good performance. I'm not sure if it's well written assembly. I think nothing comes close to that. But who these days write well written assembly?
Yeah, who is able to write some assembly program? Because that's something I know assembly, but I'm not able to do better than a compiler. Nowadays, a compiler is very good at this.
Yeah.
The program generated is very optimized, and nowadays it's hard to beat. But I think it's just trolling here.
It's interesting to see so many people liking OCaml. I need to search this up. Apparently,
Yeah, I studied it back in the day, and yeah, it's easy to do, but yeah, that's functional. So everything is function.
I mean,
like Linux, everything is files, and yeah, with OCaml, everything is function. And yeah, that's something you need to. You have to shift your paradigms in your head to try to build upon it. But yeah, and yeah, so something I say academics use it, but I never saw it in the industry. Never.
yeah, I also see that Michael says, imagine writing a compiler in C++. Like, isn't all C++ compilers written in C++? Like GCC and Clang, they are written in C++. So a lot of people have done that. But yeah, we are now on top of the hour. I think we are done with the Q&A. It was a really good Q&A. Got a lot of questions. Do you have something to add before we end the stream?
No, I don't remember the joke from last time.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
Yeah, so
Me neither.
yeah, so it was a good one. Thank you for joining, Marius. Thank you for all your insights.
Thank you too.
And have a good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this live show, and I hope we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.